Hey guys, welcome back to One Stop Biology. And in today's video, we are going to discuss all about the uptake and transport of mineral nutrients. So, guys, to remind you, we are right now studying the chapter 11 of class 11th, which is transport in plants. And we have till now seen and studied, a lot of things like we saw short distance movement of water and minerals, we saw long distance movement of water and mineral. And in the last videos, we specifically studied about transpiration, right? So today we are going to study about now the uptake and transport of mineral nutrients. Now guys, before we start off with the before we start off with the topic, please do let me know if you find the topics, if you find the videos useful to you. Your feedback is really important, so please giving your feedback in comments of the videos. And yes, if you did understand the video, please do like it and share it with your friends. Please do remember that your feedback is really important to me. I want to make the videos as useful as it can be for your preparation of boards or NEET. Okay. And yes, guys, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to get all the updates that I keep posting on my channel. So let's start off with the uptake and transport of mineral ions. So basically what happens, guys, is that the plants, they obtain their carbon and oxygen, right? So they obtain the carbon and oxygen from what? From CO2, from the carbon dioxide that they take up from the atmosphere, right? Now, apart from these two things, all the remaining nutritional requirements are obtained from minerals and water, right? So basically, they take up the nutrient requirement, the all the other requirements of different kind of nutrients from either minerals and water for hydrogen in the soil. So they take up minerals from the soil basically, right? So now let's see how does the uptake of mineral ion happens. So now guys, unlike water, minerals cannot be passively absorbed by the roots. So the first point that you'll have to remember is that minerals, if we talk about minerals, they cannot be passively absorbed, right? However, in the case of water, we saw that passive absorption of water is possible, right? So that is why we say that there are two factors which account for this, right? Now, basically, minerals are present in soil as charged ions. So they are not a neutral ion. They are present as charged ions. And these charged ions cannot move across cell membranes, right? So what are the reasons behind the statement that minerals cannot be passively absorbed by the roots is that first first option, the first reason is that these minerals are present as charged ions, right? And these charged ions cannot move across cell membrane. And what is the other reason? The other reason is that the concentration of mineral in soil is usually lower, right? So basically what happens is that if you compare the concentration of mineral in soil and when you compare it from what is the concentration of mineral in the root, usually the concentration of mineral in soil is lower. And we have always studied that in passive absorption, in passive movement, it happens always from higher concentration to lower concentration, not opposite to that. However, the concentration of mineral is lower in soil than to the concentration of mineral in root. And that is the reason passive absorption of mineral in root is not possible. Okay, so the second reason is that concentration of minerals where in the soil is lower than the concentration of minerals in the root. So now the question arises that how do they then, enter the root? So they do not enter through a passive absorption. So basically most minerals, remember, most minerals enter the root by active absorption. And where do they enter? They enter into the cytoplasm of epidermal cells, right? So you'll have to remember that most minerals enter the root by active absorption into the cytoplasm of epidermal cells. Now what do we exactly studied in the very first video about any kind of active absorption? That it requires energy in the form of ATP. So basically, if the plant has to uptake mineral, they'll have to, have energy to do that. They'll have to basically use ATP that they have, right? So this active uptake of iron is partially responsible for the water potential gradient in roots as well. And that is why the uptake of water by osmosis. So because of these ions, there is a water potential gradient which is present in the roots, and they uptake water by osmosis, right? And then after, entering the cytoplasm of the epidermal cells, some basically ions during osmosis also move into the epidermal cell passively, right? So during this process, there are some ions which move into the epidermal cells passively as well, right? Now, if we talk about ions, remember that if we talk about ions, so ions are absorbed by soil, right? Like from soil by both passive and active transport, right? So how does this ion transport exactly happens? Basically, we have specific proteins, and what these proteins do, these proteins basically are present in the membrane of the root hair. So the root have hair, right? So these proteins are present in the membrane of the root hair cells. And what they keep doing is they keep actively pumping ions from the soil into the cytoplasm of the epidermal cells, right? So like all the other cells, the endodermal cells, the layer just after the epidermis, they have many transport proteins which are embedded in their plasma membrane, right? And these proteins, they basically allow some solutes across the membrane, but not others. So basically, these proteins are specific to different kind of solutes, right? Now there is a statement, transport proteins of endodermal cells are central points. Remember that these transport proteins of endodermal cells are central point where the plant adjusts the quantity and the type of solute that reaches to the xylem. So see what happens is that there are certain proteins which are present in the epidermal cells, the outermost layer, right? So say this is the epidermal cell. This is the epidermal cell, right? Now there are some proteins say present here. What they do is they actively keep on pumping the ions inside, irrespective of what kind of ion or mineral it is, right? They just keep on pumping. And then we have another layer. So we have another layer of endodermal cells, right? Say now here, so basically after, getting inside the epidermal cells, so we have epidermis and then we have endodermis. Now what these cells do? They again have certain proteins, and these proteins are known as transport proteins. So they have transport proteins. And what these transport proteins do, they basically are control points. So they do not allow all kind of solute to pass through them. They just choose specific solutes depending upon the requirement, right? So basically, inside you have the xylem, right? Now they do not allow all these proteins to move inside. They choose, they pick, and they allow some. Okay, so these transport proteins are basically control points, and these points are adjusted depending upon the quantity which is required and the type of solute which has to pass on, right? So you'll have to remember the concept of transport proteins, right? Now again, the root endodermis also has the ability to actively transport ion in one direction only. So remember that endodermis has a layer of what? It has a layer of suberin. And because of this layer of suberin, it just has the ability to actively transport ion in one direction. So basically, the ions will be transported inside. They cannot push it back because there is a layer of suberin, right? Now, the next thing that we'll see is translocation of mineral ions. Okay, so let's see that as well. So basically, guys, after reaching the endodermis, right? Uh, what happens is that they reach to the xylem. Now, after the ion has reached its xylem, it can be active or passive uptake, right? Or maybe a combination of two, whatever through whatever way they are reaching to the xylem. Further transport up to the stem or say to all other parts of the plant is through transpiration stream. So again here transpiration comes into picture, right? So basically all the mineral elements, you know, are required where? Requirement for mineral elements are basically in the growing regions of the plant. Like we have the meristems, right? We have the apical and lateral meristems. So this requirement of mineral ions will be always in the growing region of the plants. Like say apical lateral meristems, then you have young leaves, you have developing flowers or fruit or seed, or there are storage organs, right? So what happens is that unloading of mineral ions occurs at the vein ending through diffusion and active uptake of by these cells. So you have the cells, right, of where this xylem which is moving up, right? And what happens is that, you know, the mineral ions are basically moving through diffusion or say even active uptake through these fine vein endings, right? So basically what is happening is that there is one requirement which is in the growing regions. Now it might be a young leaf, it might be a fruit, it might be a flower, it might be, all the meristems. So one is that from the xylem, which is from the mineral which is present in the roots, in the xylem of the roots. Now they move up through the veins. The second thing is that mineral ions are also remobilized. Now say in a plant, there is one part which is going through the senescence phase, right? So during the senescence phase, basically they are not using up any mineral ion. Now these mineral ions which are present in that part of the plant are basically moved to the place where they are required more, right? So what happens is that the older dying leaves, they export much of their mineral content to younger leaves, right? Now, in the similar way, before the leaf falls in deciduous plants, the minerals are removed to the other plants, right? Now, what are the elements which are, more readily mobilized? So, you have these elements which are basically more readily mobilized. So, you have phosphorus, you have sulfur, you have nitrogen, you have potassium, right? These are the elements which can be easily remobilized. Now, what is one element, right, which cannot be easily remobilized? So there is one element which cannot be remobilized, which is say calcium. There are more like calcium. So basically elements which are structural components like calcium, they are not remobilized, right? Now when you see the xylem, you will see that some of the nitrogen travels as inorganic ions. But a lot of nitrogen is carried in the organic form, which is like amino acids or related compounds. In the same way, we have these ions carried as organic compounds as well. Like even phosphorus and sulfur are carried out as organic compounds, right? Now, you know, apart from this, there is this small amount of exchange of materials which takes place between xylem and phloem as well, right? So basically, again, now there are some ways, there are some times when the xylem and the phloem transport, right? They somewhat are carried out together in some way or the other. Right? So guys, with this we have finished the translocation and movement of mineral ions as well. Now in the next video which most probably will be the last video, we will see the phloem transport as well. Till now we have studied all about the xylem transport. Right? So I hope you understood today's video. So guys, as I said while I was starting the video, please do like it and share it with your friends. And yes, if you have any doubt, please do let me know in the comment section. You can also message your doubts on WhatsApp. I've given the WhatsApp number over description of this video. And guys, yes, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to get all the updates. Thanks for watching this video, guys. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.